Apple spent more than 20 years teaching China how to build the world's most advanced consumer technology. It was one of the greatest business decisions in history. And it may have created Apple's most dangerous problem. Because while Apple was building iPhones, Chinese factories were learning. Engineers were gaining experience. Suppliers were becoming faster, more precise, more sophisticated. Then something changed. The companies surrounding Apple's manufacturing empire started building technology of their own. Premium smartphones, advanced batteries, telecommunications equipment, artificial intelligence systems, and increasingly sophisticated chips. Apple helped build the machine. Now the machine is producing competitors, and Apple is discovering something uncomfortable. You can move a factory, but you can't easily move 20 years of accumulated knowledge. To understand how Apple ended up here, you have to understand what it really built in China. When Apple expanded deeply into China, the attraction was bigger than cheap labor. China had something far more valuable. Scale, a huge manufacturing workforce, dense networks of suppliers, factories capable of changing production quickly, and engineers who could solve problems directly on the production floor. Apple demanded extraordinary precision. Millions of devices had to look identical. Components had to arrive at exactly the right moment. Factories had to increase production rapidly when a new iPhone launched. To meet Apple's standards, suppliers had to become better, faster, more precise, more sophisticated. Apple wasn't simply manufacturing products in China. It was helping train an entire industrial ecosystem. And industrial knowledge does not stay trapped inside one smartphone. An engineer who learns how to manage precision electronics manufacturing doesn't forget that knowledge when the production line changes. A supplier that learns how to produce millions of high-quality components can use that experience for another customer. A factory that learns how to coordinate workers, robots, and global logistics has built a capability, not just a product. Over time, China's technology ecosystem became deeper. The factories improved, the supplier networks expanded, the engineering experience accumulated, and Chinese technology companies were watching, learning, hiring, building. Huawei, Xiaomi, Oppo, Vivo, Honor. These companies did not become global technology competitors overnight. They grew inside one of the most sophisticated electronics manufacturing environments ever created. Today, Chinese smartphone companies compete on cameras, battery technology, foldable devices, artificial intelligence, and increasingly, entire technology ecosystems. In China's smartphone market, Huawei returned to the top position in the second quarter of 2025, according to IDC data reported by Reuters. Apple ranked fifth that quarter. More recently, Apple rebounded strongly in early 2026, while Huawei remained a leading player. The point isn't that Apple has disappeared. It hasn't. The point is that the competition has changed. For years, Apple's greatest advantage was its ability to design extraordinary products, then rely on an extraordinary manufacturing system to build them at enormous scale. But what happens when that manufacturing system becomes part of a larger technology ecosystem? What happens when local companies gain experienced engineers, advanced suppliers, massive factories, and one of the world's largest consumer markets? Apple helped create an environment capable of producing the iPhone. Now that same environment is helping support companies trying to beat it. That is the reversal. Apple understands the risk. The company has been expanding production outside China. India has become increasingly important to iPhone manufacturing. In 2025, Reuters reported that Apple was aiming to source most iPhones sold in the United States from India by the end of 2026. Key supplier Foxconn also announced another $1.5 billion investment in an Indian unit involved in iPhone components and assembly. Vietnam has also become important for parts of Apple's wider supply chain. The strategy is clear: reduce dependence, spread the risk, build alternatives. But there is a problem. Apple is not just trying to move assembly lines. It is trying to recreate an ecosystem. Factories can be built, machines can be purchased, workers can be hired. But manufacturing knowledge takes time. Supplier relationships take time. Production experience takes time. The ability to solve thousands of tiny problems during a massive product launch takes time. This is why Apple's China problem is so complicated. China is simultaneously one of Apple's most important manufacturing bases, one of the world's largest consumer markets, and home to some of Apple's fastest-moving technology competitors. Apple depends on the system while competing against companies growing inside it. And this story is bigger than Apple. For decades, Western companies moved manufacturing to China because it was efficient. Factories grew, suppliers improved, engineers gained experience, industrial knowledge accumulated. Now the world is discovering the long-term consequence. Manufacturing is not just about making someone else's product. Manufacturing teaches. It creates skills, builds suppliers, develops engineers, and eventually, the factory can become a competitor. Apple helped build one of the most powerful technology manufacturing systems in history. That system helped make Apple one of the world's most successful companies. But today, the relationship is changing. China has its own technology giants, its own ambitions, and an industrial ecosystem built through decades of experience. Apple created an extraordinary manufacturing machine. The question now is whether it can escape the machine before the machine learns how to beat Apple. And the next part of this story is even more uncomfortable. Because Apple is trying to move production out of China, but China may already have learned everything it needed. Subscribe to Behind the Billion.